What's good, y'all, man? Today's video, we're going to be covering the events from starting from chapter 22 all the way to the end of chapter 41. And so this will be pretty much the events of Syrup Village. So before we get to Syrup Village, there is one chapter in chapter 22 that's just a one-off. It teaches us a couple things. It's mainly where Luffy, Zoro, and Nami go to a deserted island, and Nami tells them that it's deserted, that there's no point to go there. But Luffy goes there anyway, and he ends up finding a guy trapped in a treasure box. But when I say trapped, he's walking around. He's just like his head's out of the treasure box and his legs are coming out. And you'll see that on screen of what he looks like. It's really kind of funny. And mainly, all this chapter really tells you is just like it gives you a little comical like story about how this guy got trapped on an island because he was trying to hog some treasure. But the funny thing was seeing that he fell off a mountain into a treasure box and got stuck in the treasure box. So that's how he got stuck there. But the other main thing they teach you about in this chapter is the red line. And we find out that the red line is the line is basically stopping the regular blue seas and the Grand Line. And obviously Luffy's whole goal is to get to the Grand Line. And they hype up Grand Line being a pirate's graveyard and whatnot. So that was pretty much all we got out of this chapter. So moving straight on to Syrup Village, where the rest of this arc is going to take place at. So the crew starts to land on an island that they know is inhabited because they're using the map that they stole from Buggy that has like a map of all the seas or the known seas in that area. So they know there's a decently sized village, which ends up being a Syrup Village there, so that's where they stop at. But as they're heading there, we meet Usopp, who's going to be pretty much like the main character of this island, kind of how like Nami and Zoro were of their own perspective ones. So Usopp's going to eventually be on our crew. So what happens is Usopp has a little crew of his own, which is like just comprised of 3 little kids, and they're all just running around, and then they see that there's a pirate ship coming. And so earlier on when we first meet Usopp, he's running through the town saying, pirates are coming, and all the people, town folk were like, what? Usopp's saying pirates are coming? And some of them believe him, some of them don't, because it seems like he does this a lot, and then it turns out he's just joking. But then the kids come up to him and they're telling him like, hey, there's a pirate ship coming up, and then they find out that apparently they know who Buggy the Clown was, so it turns out Buggy wasn't all talk, But Nami knew who Buggy was beforehand too, so I'm pretty sure other people would know too. But Luffy is, of course, still, riding around on the ship they stole from Buggy, so it has his banner on the ship. So Usopp takes it upon himself, him and his crew are going to try and go scare Luffy and them off. So what happens is he gets there and he tries to just scare him off and be like, well, at first they're trying to hide, but Zoro sees them all like right off the rip. He's like, what are we gonna do about them? And then they just like, oh shit, they seen us. And the 3 kids start to run away, and Usopp stands up. And he was like, and this is where you find out Usopp's just a flat out liar. He's just like, I have over 1 million, or I have like 10 million men at my disposal, and we can go ahead and knock y'all off and get y'all out of here right now. And Nami's like, no, you don't. And then he was like, fuck, she seen straight through me. We go through a little chatter here, and then Usopp finds out that they're not bad people. So he takes them back to the village, and they're eating. And basically, Luffy's just telling them why he's there. He's like he's looking for a ship and crewmates and whatnot, so he can go to the Grand Line. And this is where Usopp tells them about Kaya, which is the rich girl, like basically the richest girl on the island, lives up in a mansion. He said that'd be your best bet if you're looking for a ship. At the time for reading this, because I'm rereading these as well, so at the time it kind of made it seem like he was, I don't know, was he pushing him to go rob her because he was a pirate, or did he generally think that it would just be cool if a stranger just walks up and asks Kaya for a ship? I'm kind of torn between, I don't know how to take that, but whatever the case, after chit-chatting for a little while, eventually Usopp disappears, and we find out that little kids show up and they're like, oh, he must have went to Kaya's place to tell stories. And they're like, well, and that's where we find out that Usopp always goes to Kaya's house because she's bedridden. They don't really say for like it's not like a fatal disease or anything like that. She's just always been sick and brittle and whatnot. So she's always been in the house. So what he does is he always goes out there and goes outside her window and tells her stories. And this is where the one part where his lies are actually good, because he's just telling her made up adventures that he has, that obviously she knows didn't happen. She knows they're lies, but they're entertaining. They make her laugh and they sound cool. So this is where Luffy's like, oh man, Usopp's actually a good guy, because I mean, he's like, he isn't all bad. He's a liar, but at least he's nice. He cares and whatnot. So Luffy decides, all right, cool, I'm gonna head there and ask for a ship. So as he starts to head there, and as he's like jumping the fence and doing all this, he makes a lot of noise, and eventually all the commotion causes the butler, Kalad. Now I'm gonna say his name wrong this whole time, because if I read it, it's definitely not pronounced Kalad. I know how to pronounce his real name. We'll get to his real name, but Kalad is just, I don't know. I couldn't read it. I suck with reading names in manga, because like sometimes they're just like, I don't know. But anyway, he shows up and he's the butler, and he's basically just like, hey, y'all need to get up out of here, all of y'all. And Kaya's like, no, this fine, they can stay. And he's just like, nah, he's a liar and a wannabe pirate, and his dad's a no good pirate. That means he's eventually gonna be a no good pirate. And he's just like constantly insulting Usopp over and over again. Which, when it's insults at Usopp personally, like just about Usopp, he can kind of take it. But then he starts attacking, like insulting his dad's name. And this is where Usopp starts to get like really frustrated. And eventually he takes it out on him and swings on him. And then after he's been hit, Kalad's just like, well, look at this, Kaya. Look at him. He can only revert to violence, just like the son of a pirate. Just a barbaric scoundrel and whatnot. So at this point, eventually they get him up and they leave. And during all this, Luffy realizes that, hey, Usopp looks a lot like Usopp from Shanks' crew. And eventually Luffy asks him, and Usopp's like, yeah, my dad. And then they go on down memory lane and whatnot. And so while they're going down memory lane, they're sitting on like a little mountain. And eventually they look down at the beach, and Kalad is there talking to a strange guy, like in a jacket, in a hat, whatnot. You can't really tell who he is. And he's talking to him, and they overhear that apparently Kalad has a plan to kill Kaya and take her fortune, and find out that he's actually a pirate, and his real name is actually Captain Kuro. And so, hearing all this, Luffy isn't discreet. He just stands up, hey, y'all can't kill Kaya. And so immediately the guy that we didn't know who he was, turns out his name is Django, and he's a hypnotist. And we met him earlier on in the earlier on in the chapter, but it was like distant past. He was just a stranger walking by, so it's not relevant to bring up. But now we find out that he was a hypnotist, and he sees them. He just like immediately tries to put him to sleep, and he doesn't get Usopp, but he gets Luffy, and Luffy just falls straight off the mountain and like is head first on the ground. And so Kuro and Django think he's dead, and they're like, all right, he's dead. What about that guy? What about Usopp? And Kuro's like, nah, it doesn't matter if he knows the plan or not. Nobody's going to believe him because he's a liar. Which is true. Because the moment they leave from there, Usopp leaves from there, he runs through the town, tells them, hey, pirates are here. Pirates are going to be here tomorrow. Pirates are going to be here tomorrow. They're going to come kill everybody and take Kaya and all the money and whatnot. And ain't nobody believing all that. And some people got out and like try to like get like attack him because they're like, bro, shut up. And Usopp runs to Kaya's mansion because he's like, surely she'll believe it. And he's got to protect her because she's the main target of this whole attack. But Kaya eventually, after hearing all the stuff that he was saying, slaps him and just tells him like, I can't believe you would lie like that. Like, I mean, I get that, Kuro said some bad things about your dad, but I didn't think you would actually lie to personally get back at somebody like this. This is just not like you, Usopp. and eventually Usopp is drove away by Mary, the other like servant of the house that threatens to shoot him and whatnot. But at this point, Usopp's like, fine, I'll just protect the village myself. And three kids of his crew, Pepper, Onion, and I'm forgetting the other guy's name, but they wanted help too. But Usopp eventually he lies to them and says, "Oh, I was just joking. There's not really pirates coming," just because he knows he doesn't want to put them in danger. And that was a good thing because like even Zoro and Luffy acknowledged that as well. But Usopp decides he's gonna protect the village on his own, and that's when Luffy and Zoro are like, nah, we're gonna help you too, and Nami's gonna help too as well because Nami wants the treasure that Kuro and them got, whatever treasure they have. So we get a little glimpse at the actual the Black Cat Pirates because that's what Kuro's previous crew was named. We get a little glimpse to see like where they're at and what they're doing, and we find out he was on their ship saying, hey, you got to be here tomorrow. You need to take care of the village. And then you need to hypnotize Kaya and get her to write her will to give me all the money. So basically, his whole plan is he wants to be legit. Like he was tired of being a pirate. He was tired of being like hunted by bounty hunters in the Navy, always behind him. So he made a plan 3 years ago to die, to fake his death, basically. So what happened was a Navy ship came after them, and they easily dealt with them. Kuro easily dealt with them. But he left one guy. There was one guy alive, which happened to be Captain Morgan from the not Orangetown. I don't think there's an actual name for it I can think about. Yeah, but the one was Zoro, the one that had Zoro captured. But it was him because he didn't have a messed up jaw at the time, but Kuro was the one that messed up his jaw. And so what happened is Django ended up hypnotizing one guy saying like, okay, you're Captain Kuro. And then he hypnotized the Marine, the Navy guy, and was like, you captured Captain Kuro. And then that's what happened. They captured him. And then they executed the guy that was the stand-in. And Kuro basically just went to go be the butler. And his whole plan was eventually he would, kill Kaya, be in the will, get all the fortune, and just be rich and have peace of mind and legit. So that was the whole plan that he had. And his whole his niche was he was known as like Captain Kuro of 1,000 Plans because he was always like very elaborate in planning raids and stuff like that on villages and whatnot. So fast forward to them actually defending the place. So it's kind of funny because they always have little comical moments like going on between things. And what happens is they ended up parking their defenses at the wrong part of the beach. So, and when we find out, they're like, hey, I hear like Yars and a whole bunch of grunting and stuff running like way down there. And they're like, oh shit, we're at the wrong beach. And so they immediately start running. And Luffy runs, he says, oh, we gotta go north. And he just starts running. And then Usopp's like running right behind him. And then Nami and Zoro start running. But there's they put slick stuff on the ground. So so Nami starts to slip. So she grabs Zoro to catch herself. And then thrust him back because she's trying to pull herself up. And instead Zoro gets caught and he falls down into the thing. So now he's stuck down there. But Nami got out. And so she starts running away. She's like, sorry, Zoro. And he's like, man, I'm going to kill that girl one day. And it was funny. So Luffy ran so fast going north, but he ain't actually know where north was. And it was kind of funny because later on, you'll pick up on the niches that, especially Zoro and Luffy, don't have any sense of direction whatsoever. So Luffy doesn't end up getting there on time, but Usopp gets there first, and he starts, shooting people and dealing with and trying to stop them. And at this point, they're like, okay, he's not even worth it. We need to go kill the village, blow the village up, whatnot, before Kuro comes back and kills us. Because Kuro does not care for failure, and he will kill his own crewmates, and it doesn't matter. So what happens is, right before they rush into the village, they don't actually get to even the village line. They just like get up a hill. Luffy and Zoro show up on time, which is kind of funny because both of them are prone to getting lost, but somehow Zoro was able to catch up because, however. But they go through a whole fight scene, and Django tries to hypnotize like his crew to tell them to get stronger. And it works. Zoro didn't think it would work, but it works. But what happened was he also hypnotized Luffy to get stronger too. So Luffy's just berserk running at the people and starts attacking them and then just swiping them out. And he runs straight up to the ship, a big ship, and grabs it and breaks off the vast, like the very front of it. And he's about to swing it, but then Django's like, "Oh, go to sleep, go to sleep," and he fell asleep. And so then we have Zoro fight two cat brothers, one fat cat and one small skinny cat, and it's pretty much it's not really an issue for a fight except at the very beginning. Zoro only has one sword because the other cat stole two of them. So, and he remarks that he's not even that good at one sword style, so he struggles with that for a little bit, but eventually he takes care of both of them because because Nami helped grab the other two swords and get him his three swords. So we deal with that, and eventually Kuro shows up. At this point, Kuro shows up. Django's like, "Hey, we fucked up." But conveniently, Kaya found out that Kuro was actually, what Usopp said. So she ended up coming to the beach saying she wanted to talk to Kuro and trying to negotiate, trying to get an understanding of what's going on. Well, Kuro wasn't having it. He said, "Yo, you need to die. I need to get your money. The whole village got to go." And she just couldn't believe it. But so Usopp tells him to run, and the three little kids show up, and they're the ones that help get her out of there. And at the time, Usopp couldn't really move because he was just really, he was really damaged. He had been beat up and whatnot. So while Kaya and the kids ran away, Django was tasked to go capture them. And so eventually Zoro was like, "I'll pick you up, Usopp, and we'll go chase after him." So they go chase after him. And Django ends up cornering them, but he can't make Kaya get hypnotized because she has her eyes closed, because obviously that's an easy way. If you're relying on hypnotism, just close your eyes. And then eventually the kids, they were apparently fake sleeping, and they got up and jumped him, and then they ran off again. And we just keep cutting back and forth between Luffy and Kuro's fight. Now, the difference between Luffy and Kuro's fight as the previous fights for Luffy is, it was pretty much just super, super one-sided, which this fight was pretty much one-sided as well, but there was actual points where Luffy they got outsped, or, Kuro got a good hit on him and stuff like that. But all in all, it was pretty one-sided, That's the thing with the early arcs fights with Luffy. It's kind of they're kind of one-sided. So, but one thing we see is that Kuro already had plans to kill his entire crew because they knew his real identity, and he wanted that his whole original identity to just disappear. So Luffy didn't like that. He hated that. He was like, "Bro, there's no way. I would never want to be a pirate like you. You kill your own crewmates." And after Kuro exhausted all his resources, Luffy was just like, "Nah, fam." Luffy wraps him up and stretches his head all the way back and lands a straight headshot, literally head to head headbutt, called Gum Gum Bell, and that was it for Kuro. And so after that, after all the fighting said and done, they're just recouping, they're eating and whatnot. And then we find out that Kaya actually ended up helping them out and getting them a ship. And so the ship was called the Going Merry. And everybody else was super happy to go. And Usopp had finally, he had called a meeting with his three kids, and he was like, "Hey, the Usopp Pirates are officially disbanded." And so Usopp's original goal apparently was to go out to sea, as a captain, and be a pirate on his own. And he's there. He's like, "All right, guys, I'll see you guys later." And Luffy's like, "What do you mean?" And Zoro's like, get on. And Usopp's just like, wow, okay, I can come. He's like, oh, but can I be captain? And Luffy's like, hell no, you can't be captain. And that was pretty much the end of that. And so that marks up the rest of Syrup Village. Like I said, this arc was kind of like a lot more dialogue. Not really a lot of action really going on. So it can kind of be hard to like, stay with it. But one thing I can say is the anime does do this arc worse in my opinion. Like, I did not like the anime version, even though it's not that much different. I don't know. I feel like Usopp is just a lot more unlikable. When you read it, he's a lot more likable. And then one cool thing we do find out is the reason why that Mary remarks that long when Usopp was a kid, when he first started calling pirates were coming, it was because his mom, right before she passed, was like super sick, and Usopp would just run in there and do that because he wanted her to get her spirits up that her husband was coming home eventually, but that never happened, and obviously he kept doing that. And Mary has a theory that maybe he was doing that because he wanted his father to actually be on one of the ships that he was calling. So, and he eventually just became into a habit of even calling it, even though it wasn't any ships at all. So, I thought that was kind of cool. But overall, like I said, this arc was, when I ranked this arcs in my One Piece arc ranking, I did not like this one at all. But the manga version is a lot better than the anime version, and a fresh reread made it not as bad, but it's still like not one of my best. But you guys like the video, please hit the subscribe button. It helps out a lot. Like and comment and tell me what you think. All right, y'all. Peace.